Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to make a Father's Day card for my dad. I love my dad so much and he definitely deserves a really fun card. So I chose to make a stitching card for him since stitching is probably my favorite way to make cards. So to make my dad his Father's Day card, I first used my background die, which is the circular stitch background. And yes, this did take quite a bit of time, but my dad is so worth it. So it was definitely a little bit of a labor of love, you might say. Anytime I add a large piece of stitched anything to a card, I will reach for my liquid glue since it does really work well with the embossing floss and adhere it on to my card. I am going around the edge of this piece just to really ensure that it sticks. Then I will line it up with my card base and put it on. This stitched stitched circular die does have a lot of little holes, so you could use some kind of other color in the background to pop through those holes, but I chose to leave it white because it kind of looked nice in my opinion. I'm just going to hold this down so it sticks really nicely. I chose to use blue for almost everything because it's one of my dad's favorite colors. Now for the word dad. I used two stitching dies, the D and the A from the stitched alphabet. And I just wanted to show you how I stitch with the stitched alphabet. I always go through the outside hole. It doesn't matter whatever one. And I will hold the tail. That time I lost it. But I will hold the tail. Then I will come up through the center hole. Then I will go out to the other hole. And as you can see, I'm kind of tucking in my tail up through the center, out through the outside. Just checking the front to make sure everything looks good, and in through the middle, out through the outside. As you go, I definitely recommend flipping between the front and the back to make sure that you don't have any tangles or miss stitches. It does happen. But in general, stitching is pretty easy with these dies, as long as you go from the outside in, outside in, outside in. And that's kind of all there is to it. Now I finished off this first little cluster and I'm going to move to the next one. So what I like to do is take my string and kind of angle it and see where will it land without kind of getting in the way. And this time it didn't really matter too much, so I just chose the closest outside piece. It did end up with a little tangle, so it happens. Then in through the center and through the outside. There's my little tangle. They're not too bad, you just have to pick them out with your needle. And you just keep going all the way to the end. And I will keep this nice and zoomed in until I get to the top of the D, and I will show you how I hide the last tail. If you're not familiar with the stitched alphabet dies, I would definitely recommend them to anyone who enjoys stitching or even someone who's new to stitching because they are a very small amount of stitching for a big wow. You could add this, even the 3 letters DAD, onto some colored cardstock and it would be the wow you need. You don't even need the stitch circular background, but I will use it on my card here. The whole set is a little bit expensive, but you can use them over and over and over again. So as long as you use them, it's worth it. I will have a link in the description of this video to the direct page for those alphabet dies. Now here I am at the end, so I'm just going to slide my needle back through any of my stitches. This is the back, and that is secure enough. I will snip it and snip my first tail. And since I am gluing this down onto paper, I'm not concerned about hiding my tail too much because the glue will hold my stitch. It's rather different than embroidering on like a dish towel or a clothing piece because they get wiggled around a lot and hiding the tail is a little more complicated. But on stitch cards, it's kind of simple. You just kind of backstitch and glue it down and it's good to go. Sometimes you can use washi tape, you could make a knot. There's all sorts of things you could do to hide those tails. Now I evenly spaced out my letters and I will simply glue them on with some liquid glue and give them a firm press. The total stitch time for this card probably took maybe 3 hours, but assembling took about 15 minutes. Then to finish off the inside of the card, I used a stamp from the Magic Spring Messages from Lawn Fawn. I used the Happy Father's Day sentiment, since this is a Father's Day card. I put it on the bottom on the right. Then I used a marker from Stampin' Up, and this is the color Brilliant Blue. I didn't buy this marker anytime in the recent past. I inherited this from my mom, and she bought it years and years and years ago. So I'm still amazed that there's still ink in this pen and marker in the first place. I do think it is just a little dark, and I probably should have tested the color on a little piece of scrap paper, but since it's on the cart, it's what I'm going with. So that finishes off this card. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye!